National heroes. Action Force will dare. Action Force!
Hey guys, welcome to the very first Action Force review on the channel. This is my first piece of Action Force merchandise, and it is courtesy of Stuart Norris from the Patreon tribe. Stuart, thank you so much for sending this along. I've known about Action Force for a very long time and admired a lot of the cool recolors that were available across the pond, and it is really, really awesome to have one in my hands. And I'm going to share it with you today. Going to take a closer look at the SAS Panther Jeep, as well as the SAS Patrol Boat with Commando figure. Going to start off with the SAS Panther Jeep, which is a recolor of the 1982 G.I. Joe Vamp. And for those who don't know, SAS stands for Special Air Service. Part of the British military. It is their cream of the crop. It's like their Navy SEALs. And I have seen this mold many, many times throughout the years. And it's been available in many, many recolors. Got an original Vamp here to compare it with. The original OD Green Vamp. And it is an identical recolor. There hasn't been any remolding here like in the 25th anniversary when they've added extra details. Headlights, some things that can come off. Actually, there is one difference here. I'm learning as I'm going here, comparing the two here. The hubcaps look a little bit different, or whatever you want to call these wheel wells right here on the Vamp. It's a totally different piece than the one that's been included. The yellow parts on the Panther, they feel a little softer than anything on the original Vamp. This yellow piece right here, I feel like I can dig my nail into it a little bit. The plastic on the front here, this little front part here, it's harder on the Vamp. It feels like it might have just a little bit more give. You can see it bend a little bit more on the SAS. That's very similar. The steering wheel is pretty similar. And then you get some real floppy, bendy material, which is a good thing. When this Jeep takes a tumble, you're not going to want these to break off from being too rigid. And it's about the same on the Vamp, maybe a little bit more give on it on the Panther. And just like on the Vamp, by pushing this back and forth, you have this pulsating gun action on here. Also, like on the Vamp, you've got a couple of gas cans in the back. They've got different stickers on them though. High octane fuel on these. I really love the yellow and the black color scheme on the Panther. There's been a lot of recolors of the Vamp. There's the Vamp Mark II in brown. And then there was a gray camo version in the modern line a while later. But this would have been awesome instead of some of the other recolor lines we got, like Slaughter's Marauders, Tiger Force. I think I would have been all over this, especially with the vehicles that I never had originally. I think this color scheme looks fantastic. The SAS logo that they use here reminds me a lot of the Destro Iron Grenadiers logo. Probably has something to do with the yellow on black. Destro's is gold on black. But I think that's a really cool logo. You got the SAS stickers. And I like the stand away on the front. Usually on Joe stuff it's keep away. But that just seems a little more classy. Stand away, chap. And some more stickers, sticker detailing on the inside. Here you got a first aid kit. And some console detailing. So very similar to the Vamp, almost identical to the Vamp trailer hitch, but it's all about the color scheme on the Panther. And a regular G.I. Joe figure can fit. I don't actually have any Action Force O-ring figures, but I do have a guy who's almost an Action Force figure. That good old Big Ben right here from the UK. Jolly good show. And we'll just stick him in here. It's kind of an honorary SAS figure, and just like Clutch in the original Vamp, he fits in there perfectly. But Stuart did actually include one figure for me to put in this Jeep, and this figure also came with his own little mini vehicle, and it's the Commando from the SAS Patrol Boat set. And this figure comes with a couple of accessories. One of them I immediately recognized. The machine gun that he comes with is Baby, which was included, or it's very similar. It might not be the exact same thing, but the Hannibal figure from Galoob came with this machine gun. And I'm going to make sure that I don't mix these two up. Left hand is SAS Action Force. Right hand is Hannibal. No, it's different. Yeah, it's different. I thought it was a remold. I thought it was the same thing. They're very similar, but definite difference with the Hannibal figure. This Commando figure, I was expecting like an O-ring figure, but the Action Force figures actually have a different body construction. They're not O-rings, or some of them aren't O-rings like regular G.I. Joe figures. They're more like Star Wars figures. They don't have knee articulation. They just have a hip bend, like a Star Wars Kenner figure. Arm bend, head, and that's it. Made of a nice bendy plastic. No danger of breaking this guy. He's very bendy, and it's almost like he's almost like an LJN WWF wrestler that you can really move these parts around for play. His arms are molded in this gun holding position so that he's the natural pose seems to be holding it down at the ready and steadying it with his other hand, but if you raise them up a bit, turn his head a little bit, then he can be shooting. He had a machete as well, and I'm sorry to say it was claimed by the sea. The sea was angry that day, my friends, and a big wave came when I was getting those pictures and those shots. A big wave came and yanked this guy, and I almost lost the whole thing, so that's why I'm not too sad about it. It almost claimed this whole thing, and I almost lost the paddle too. So I'm glad I recovered almost all of it, but the machete, maybe I'll find it someday when I go back to that beach. But the figure also includes this backpack, which is removable. Reminds me again a lot of the A-Team figures, and they have this style, or the Coleco Rambo figures also have this style of backpack that you can snap on, and it fits over top of here. Now, I'm a guy who knows nothing about Action Force. This is my first Action Force figure that I'm holding and playing around with, so I'm assuming this is how it all goes together. The thing that's really perplexing me is this thing. These parts right here, I don't know where they go. There's this post right here on the back. I'm wondering if they're supposed to bend forward and secure onto there, but it feels like I'm going to tear it if I stretch it all the way back there. I don't really know where else it would go. Like, it's not long enough to attach onto there. He does include this little box of explosives, a detonator. And these pegs right here do plug into there. There's two of them, and there's two of these latches, so I don't know, like, is it supposed to go behind him? That's kind of how I had it going, and I know people who know exactly the official way this is supposed to go are probably just going ape, and thank you for all the comments that are to come telling me how it's supposed to go. It will get figured out, don't worry, but this is the best I can figure it out, just to plug it on the back there, have it on his back. It doesn't sit flat, but it's kind of tucked in behind that post. And the paddle is also included, which can sort of hold the patrol boat. Take a closer look at that. Has some really nice stickers on it too. I believe this was a 1983. The Panther would have been an 82, and the patrol boat was an 83. Action Force original, not ever released in G.I. Joe. I don't remember ever seeing it in any color, recolor. This is totally an Action Force original. Kind of reminds me of the Cobra Night Landing. It's the answer to Cobra's Night Landing. It's got a little motor on the back, which is removable, and a little machine gun which plugs into, that's on this little swiveling and pivoting thing with a little handle on the back there, and some more really cool looking stickers in here, readouts, schematics, first aid. Always got to have first aid in there, and a couple of posts for the figure, and so that you don't lose the paddle. And the big reason why I didn't lose the paddle was that when that big wave hit, this was nicely tucked under there, kind of bends under there. I guess you can also fit the gun sort of in there, tuck it in there. It's always nice when vehicles have places for weapons and accessories. So the Commando can either stand in here, and I've noticed that his feet peg holes are different from G.I. Joe peg holes. You can plug him in here, do a little bit of a twist, and he's really nice and secure in there. But if we take a G.I. Joe figure, it's not the same size. It's much looser. So Real American Hero G.I. Joe has different foot pegs. And just to illustrate here, I've got one of these G.I. Joe stands, and the peg is just way too big for this Action Force figure. But if you take a 25th anniversary stand, that one is actually perfect. So that's the size of Action Force figures. I guess they're like Star Wars pegs. That makes sense since they're very similar to Star Wars figures. And you can either stand in this thing or you can sit him down. And the arm articulation is a little limited, but it's good enough on this guy that you can have a hand resting on top of the gun. You can have another hand underneath steadying it, or you can take the paddle and just feed it through his thumb there so that he's sort of paddling and shooting at the same time. You can have his machine gun at the ready in there. I don't really want to push it in tight, but actually that's perfect. That's not falling out there. Everything else will fall out, but the gun won't. It's nice and secure, and it doesn't feel like you're damaging the gun either. So that's the patrol boat, which is really cool to take out onto the water. And then the figure actually does also fit in the Panther. You have to take his backpack off because it's just too bulky with it on, but you can just feed him in there. The legs are short enough to fit in there. You can, even though the hand is in a locked position, you can put the hand over top of the steering wheel. That's always an important thing for me whenever figures are in vehicles. The other hand just kind of, I don't know, holds underneath, steadies itself, steadies him for a bumpy ride, and I think he looks fantastic. The color scheme is awesome. He's got the same color scheme as the Jeep. It's got the SAS logo on each shoulder and black and gray. The SAS Panther did originally come with a different figure, an O-ring figure, recolor of Snake Eyes. But I like how these look together, and I also love that this is a completely original figure, not just a recolor of an 82 G.I. Joe. So that's a look at my very first Action Force items. Really awesome to finally have some Action Force in the 80s Toy Museum. So thanks again, Stuart. That's really awesome. And thanks to the Patreon tribe. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate all your support and positivity and enthusiasm. The Patreon tribe is rocking. It is the most fun place on the internet for me. Love all the discussions going on the community wall and all of the fun responses to the postings that I do on there, and watch parties and roundtables too. If you grew up on Action Force and you just got some Force flashbacks, I'd love to hear about it in the comments section below. Share some of the items that you had and some of the adventures that you had with them in the comments section below. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Yo Force!